When we talk about startup LLC business line of credit, no revenue, there are some lenders that you really want to apply at, right? There are some lenders that are friendlier to your startup LLC, and other lenders ask for a lot of documentation. So in today's conversation, I want to compare and contrast four business lenders for your startup LLC. When it comes to business line of credit, no revenue, you have a Clarify Capital, you have Mainvest, you have Progressive Business Capital, and then you have startup business lenders. I want to start with Clarify Capital. So here is the overview. So when you think about Clarify Capital for your startup LLC business line of credit, you can get up to $750,000. So that's $750,000, and you can get funded within 24 to 48 hours. Okay, and the APR here can be as low as 6%. What we love about Clarify Capital is that they are friendly to startup LLCs, and there are no prepayment penalties, and you are able to build up your credit rating with Clarify Capital. What we love about this lender also is that you are able to have access to several funding programs. Okay, you have in addition to startup business line of credit for your LLC, you can have access to business loans for your LLC, for your startup LLCs. Okay, and you also have equipment financing depending on the application. One thing I want to say here is that if you really want to qualify for a startup LLC business line of credit, no revenue with Clarify Capital, the first thing is you need to call 1-877-838-3919. Okay, so 877-838-3919. And what you want to have here is you want to make sure that you have a business plan. You want to have financial projections. You need to make sure that you have everything that says that you are a legit startup LLCs. So for example, you got to have your articles of organization. Make sure you have your certificate of good standing, because you can't really qualify for a startup LLC business line of credit, no revenue with Clarify Capital if you don't have a business plan, you don't have a financial projection, and you don't have a business bank account where you can show them the statements from that account. Okay, this is really important. And so once you have those three requirements, so this is what they call the Golden Trifecta. So financial projections, business plan, and business bank accounts. Once you have those, the bank statements, once you have those three, you have access to a constellation of startup LLC business line of credit. So you have, for instance, you can have an unsecured business line of credit. You can have a real estate line of credit for your startup LLC. You can have you can have equipment financing where you have a line of credit where you can actually attach to your equipment financing program. So this is kind of cool. And what we love about Clarify Capital is that they are very flexible. Okay, they're very flexible. The only thing is they will ask you for some documentation. Remember, they're not asking you for a revenue. So if you're a startup, you have no revenue by definition, or you have that maybe you haven't gotten a chance to generate consistent revenue yet. So Clarify Capital understand that. So they're not going to bother you with too many questions about profitability, too many questions about revenue. What they want to ask from you is, as I said before, business plan, financial projections. They will ask you they'll also ask you bank statements. And they'll ask you for 1 to 2 years of business tax returns. If you don't have business tax returns, they'll ask you for 1 or 2 years of personal tax returns. So be ready to provide your 1040. Okay, and if you have been in business long enough for your startup LLC business to file Form 1065, then you will need to provide a copy of the last 12 months of your tax transaction, of your tax return information. Okay, but overall, Clarify Capital is very friendly to startup LLCs. Usually they might ask you for 6 months in business and $10,000 per month in revenue, but as long as you have your business plan, as long as you have your financial projections, and your business bank statements, they will waive that requirement. Let me talk to you now about Mainvest. Mainvest is the second lender I want to review into this conversation. So, by the way, I want to quickly remind you of today's topic. We are having a compare and contrast between 4 lenders that actually provide loans and lines of credit to startup LLCs. So we have Clarify Capital, Mainvest, Progressive Business Capital, and Startup Business Lenders. And I want to review Mainvest. So when you think about Mainvest, what we love about Mainvest is that we love the flexibility. We love how quickly they will actually give you the funds that you're asking them. And we love the fact that with Mainvest, they will work with you to make sure that you get your startup LLC, business line of credit, no revenue, and no collateral. So this is really good. Okay, so Mainvest will actually help you set the terms for your own, for the funding that you need. You can raise capital, so that you can choose how you want to raise capital through Mainvest. You can choose whether or not you want to have a startup business line of credit, or you want to have a startup LLC business loan, or a startup LLC, any kind of business funding that you want for your startup LLC. Mainvest can actually help you do that. What we love about Mainvest is that it's not just a platform or a lender that allows you to borrow. It's more than that. You can raise capital. Okay, so you have an all-in-one platform. So Mainvest is kind of similar to Kickstart or Indiegogo in the sense that you can raise debt for your startup LLC. You can raise equity for your startup LLC. So that's just kind of cool, because then you don't really need to produce revenue information to qualify for a loan. And all you have to do is be able to convince lenders, to convince investors that your business idea has potential. Okay, but the only thing is that you have to actually make sure that whatever pitch you put on the platform, you really kind of follow through. So when we talk about Mainvest, I have already explained to you that Mainvest is not your typical lender. So if you have a startup LLC and you are trying to have a business line of credit, you're going to have to talk to multiple investors or multiple lenders, small lenders. Okay, it's more like a crowdfunding sort of platform. This is not your typical lender. And now there is a formula that you can actually follow to succeed on the platform. Make sure that you have, they're not asking you for a business plan. They're asking you more for a pitch. So something very summarized. So instead of 20 pages or 30 pages or 40 pages, just have 5 pages where you're able to explain to investors, hey, listen, my business idea, my startup LLC business idea is just fantastic. Okay. And so it's more about convincing the crowd than trying to convince the lender. And one thing you need to also understand here is that Mainvest wants to make sure that their investors, the people who are on the platform, who are lending to startup LLCs, their investors are protected. So Mainvest is going to make sure that you actually meet certain requirements. So make sure that you have your business plan, your pitch. Make sure you have your business bank account, your bank statements. Make sure you have your financial projections, and make sure that you talk about sector trends. So your startup LLC is in a specific industry. Make sure that you explain to Mainvest investors how you are able to monetize your business idea. Okay, this is really important. So long story short, when you think about Mainvest, I want you to think about a platform, not an actual lender, not an actual lending institution. You are thinking about a platform whereby you can raise money for a business line of credit. You can raise money for a business loan. You can raise money for equipment financing. You can raise equity for your startup LLC. And it doesn't matter if you have revenue or no revenue, you can get the cash you need on the Mainvest platform. Okay, this is important. And one thing I want to close on this: make sure that you are also once you get the cash, make sure that you come up with a repayment window where you are explaining to lenders and investors when they'll get their cash back and how they will get their cash back. Let me talk to you now about the third lender in today's conversation. By the way, let me remind you of today's topic. I'm doing a quick compare and contrast between four business lenders that provide startup LLC business line of credit funding. So I started with Clarify Capital. Then I went to Mainvest. Now I want to talk to you about Progressive Business Capital. So when you think about Progressive Business Capital, you basically have a maximum of $300,000. Okay, so this is a lender that can give you can kind of help you out. But the only thing is, if you are looking for more than $300,000, you're not going to be happy with the Progressive. But hey, listen, 300, that's still a lot of cash. Okay, so when you get a startup LLC business line of credit from Progressive, they're pretty comfortable. They're pretty flexible. They're not going to ask you for revenue. Usually they ask for 25,000, at least 25,000 in annual revenue, but they will waive it if you have a solid business plan and you show projected financial statements for 5 years. So that's the requirement. They want you to show some financial projections for 5 years, and you got to have a compelling business plan, so they will waive the annual revenue requirement. Having said that, they want you to have a FICO score of 680. So that's the minimum. They want you to have a FICO score of 680, and they want you to be in business for 6 months at least. So if you want to qualify for a business line of credit, no revenue with a Progressive Business Capital, make sure that you basically comply with those. Okay. Now, if you want to apply for real, you can actually you need to have 4 months of business bank statements. They want to see your recent credit reports. They want to see the most recent business and personal tax return. Now, if you're a startup, you haven't gotten a chance to file a tax return yet, a business tax return that is, that's fine. Just make sure that you show them the last 2 years of your 1040. And with Progressive, you can actually get the cash, maximum $300,000, to buy inventory, cover payroll. You can bridge cash flow gaps. You can market your business. Okay. If you're interested, you can apply online, or you can just call 1-800-508-4332. 1-800-508-4532 to have more information. Okay. But Progressive is kind of cool for restaurants, auto repair shops, retail facilities, salons, medical, and more. Okay. Fantastic. Now let me talk about the fourth player in today's conversation. We have now startup business lenders, and this is actually a well named. The name is Startup Business Lenders. Can't really get better than that, and they'll actually take care of you also when it comes to startup LLC business line of credit, no revenue. What we love about startup business lenders is the flexibility and the speed with which they will get you the cash. Okay, so for this lender, you can actually qualify for lines of credit that go from $5,000 to $250,000. So your startup LLC can qualify for $5,000 all the way to $250,000. And the cool thing is that there's a 0% interest for the first 6 to 24 months. Okay, the payment is monthly. So basically, there is no sort of like period. There's no draw period and the repayment period. You pay as you go. And so what we love about startup business funders is that you can use you have an unrestricted use of funds. Okay, but you got to be a U.S. citizen though. So U.S. citizens only can qualify here, and the co-signers are also eligible. Minimum FICO score is 680, so you got to have at least 680 if you want to qualify for this startup LLC business line of credit. And what we love about startup business lenders is that they are constantly changing. They are constantly improving their offer. We love that. You have this lender has no prepayment penalty. In some cases, you can have same day pre-approval. Okay, so this is kind of cool. Pre-approval though, not same day approval, same day pre-approval. Okay, but overall, those startup business lenders is really great. They fund startup LLC businesses with credit lines that range from $5,000 to $250,000. Now, if your startup LLC business needs more than $250,000, be sure to actually check out their startup business loans. Okay, and there is no financial documentation, no income verification, and so this is essentially a stated income or no doc for all of their startup funding programs. So this is kind of cool. Before I actually tell you which lender is actually great for you, let me give you a few pro tips. Okay, if you have a startup LLC and you are looking for a business line of credit with no revenue, it's really important to pay attention to the fact that all lenders are not created equal. Some lenders have a great offers. Okay, they have great offers, but the APR is kind of crazy, and other lenders have APR that are really low. They have APRs, very low APRs, but their offer is not really interesting. So you have to really navigate the whole line of credit sort of journey and find out what really works for you. When we talk about startup LLC business line of credit, the question is, when should you consider a startup LLC business line of credit if you have no revenue? Well, you can actually look for this kind of funding if you are waiting to get paid. For example, if your startup LLC business is struggling to scale and you have mixed personal and business finances. Okay, and it's really important to understand that there are other options. If you don't get a business line of credit for your startup LLC with no revenue, there are other options for a startup business loan for your LLC with no revenue. So you can get a traditional bank loan. You can think about equipment financing. You can think about business credit card for your startup LLCs. You can think about invoice financing and factoring. This is kind of cool, especially if you have a pretty solid customers. Okay, because when we talk about no revenue, we're talking about no income, really. I mean, because if you're a startup, you probably have one or two, if you are lucky enough to have one or two customers, and they are just, there is a delay in the time they pay you versus the time you deliver the product or service to them, then you can think about invoice financing and factoring. So here is the decision here. So we want to start up LLC, rare business line of credit, no revenue. So Clarify Capital, Mainvest, Progressive Business Capital, and Startup Business Lenders. Which one should you go for? It really depends. So if you are listening to me right now, if you have a startup LLC and you are looking for a business line of credit and you have no revenue and you need to choose, think about the loan amount. Think about the line of credit amount that you really want. Okay, and right, because see, the thing is, you need money to make money. So how much you really need, and think about the level of operational stage for your startup LLC. Have you been in business for 3 months, for 6 months, for 9 months, for 1 year? The thing is that the technical definition of a startup is 1 year. So if you have been in business for 1 year, you can still qualify for the name. You can still be a startup technically. Okay, and so to think about the best criterion to choose when it comes to your business line of credit, think about your industry or sector. Think about the credit score of the founders. Remember, a lot of platforms, a lot of lenders want you to have a minimum credit score of 680. So anytime you think about no credit, no revenue, that means your credit score must go up. The LLC founder must have a high FICO score. Okay, so what kind of repayment period are you looking for? What kind of line of credit, I would say, criteria, or what kind of line of credit arrangement are you looking for? And do you currently have a business plan, or are you going to create one? Okay, what kind of what is your opinion about financial projections? Do you currently have some projections, or are you going to create a few of them? So those are really important elements that you need to think about. If you don't have a business plan or financial projections, then you have to think about maybe take the time to create those documents before coming back to look for the best lender for you. Okay, so Clarify Capital, Mainvest, Progressive Business Capital, Startup Business Lenders. Those four are kind of cool lenders, but our winner is Clarify Capital. We think Clarify Capital offers the best line of credit for your startup LLC business. So we have chosen Clarify Capital 9.6 over 10, Progressive Business Capital 9.3 over 10, Startup Business Lenders 8.7 over 10, and Mainvest 8 over 10. Thank you so much for your attention. I really appreciate it. I'll see you next time. But until then, remember, stay marvelous.